because manifestation is all about energy.
We are too busy, too distracted, too out of the habit of listening to it to be part of that emergent flow of the cosmos.
You are a projector. You are a projector of your greatest desires, which means manifestation at the end of the day is a giant loop.
But we want to be far more conscious. We want to be far more aware, and we want to awaken to what our programming is.
I might know it, but my life's going down, so I've got to do something about it. And so that's the first time that I physically had a ritual of creative visualization.
How do we begin to reshape our brains?
I'll tell you the story of a friend of mine. His name is Beth, and she is coming out with a book about this, so it's no secret she did this. But Beth had a diagnosis. This is last June. Actually, exactly a year ago, she got this diagnosis of breast cancer. She had a large tumor in one of her breasts, and it has spread to the lymph nodes under her arms. So these lymph nodes, which are usually clear, were now full of cancer cells. Also, they later noticed 3 spots on her lung. So it looked like the cancer was now metastasizing throughout her body, as well as the primary tumor in her breast. And she emailed me and called me in really a panic. And she said, what do I do? I've got this diagnosis. She'd also had a gene test, and the gene test revealed 8 defective genes. And so now she not only has this cancer diagnosis, she has this belief that I'm doomed. I have 8 defective genes, which predispose me to breast cancer.
I'm going to put defective in quotes. I'm putting big air quotes here.
Absolutely. And so we worked on that core belief. I said, hey, it's not the genes. The epigenetics of this is which genes are turned on, which genes are turned off, and you can shift all kinds of genes with your beliefs, with your mind. So she did a whole bunch of different things. First of all, she elected not to get conventional treatment. Now, that's not the right choice for everybody. It was the right choice for her. She said, I'm not going to even get a biopsy. Because that could liberate cancer cells from the primary tumor. I'm just going to use scanning to monitor the tumor. She got totally serious about reducing the stress in her life. She simply deleted every single activity that caused her stress. She also she had a pretty healthy diet, but she'd been eating the occasional chocolate fudge brownie and
Oh, Dawson.
pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream. And she just cut out absolutely everything other than those healthy things in her diet. She had us do surrogate work with her. I did surrogate work where I did surrogate EFT tapping with my wife as her surrogate. So we would tap and my wife would say, I am Beth, and I believe that, and she'd just go ahead and make up things that Beth might be thinking or fearing. I've been told that I have 8 defective genes, and even though I've been told this, I love and accept myself. So we were doing this kind of surrogate healing for Beth. She was getting energy healing from people. She went and did intensive qigong, and she began to practice all of these things in her life: meditation, EFT tapping, qigong, cleaning up her diet, reducing her stress. By later on, I think in August, she had another scan, and that lump was still there in her breast. But one of the doctors, I think she got like 3 different opinions. One of the doctors said, that looks to me as though it's not living tissue. It looks necrotic. It looks like a dead cancerous mass. And they're just dead cells there. And your body is then just going to flush them out. And all of her lymph nodes had cleared up. At that point, there was no more cancer in lymph nodes. And so by September, now again, June, she got the diagnosis and immediately did all this stuff, energy healing for her body. July, August, September, 3 months later, she had scans, she had blood work, she was cancer-free. Energy healing. So changing your mind, changing your beliefs, changing your brain, and it then shifts your body dramatically. So I would strongly urge people of any kind of serious diagnosis is look at the role energy healing can play in your life. Don't discard modern medicine. I love modern medicine. Modern medicine, but she had really good doctors as well, and they were monitoring her progress. And so you get the best of all possible worlds, the best of allopathic medicine, the best of natural medicine, but then look at what you can do, how you can change your mind, change your brain, change your belief, change your practices, and then shift your body as a result. I take people to Hawaii every year, and we do a 7-day life purpose retreat. It's a pretty powerful event. And so, like we're asking about big questions like life purpose, but they start with small questions. They start with meditation every day, and then by the third day, we're having them do this as they walk down the buffet line at lunch. And we have them walk down the buffet line and tune in to what their body needs. Now, this is really full of surprises. We have people there who are carnivores, who always eat meat, and who would never have any thought of being vegan or vegetarian. And they'll walk down the whole lunch line, and when they're really tuning into their bodies, they find themselves making a lot of plant-based choices and also having meals and being really happy with no meat. We also have vegans at those retreats who are walking down that line, and suddenly their body is saying, you need that chicken breast. And they're tuning into their bodies. And we start to really respect our bodies and love our bodies and realize we have this inner GPS guidance signal that is there all the time. The problem is we are too busy, too distracted, too out of the habit of listening to it to be part of that emergent flow of the cosmos. But I show you as over the 7 chapters of the book how to, the last 2 chapters especially is just tune into that flow. And when you listen, when it realizes you're listening, it starts to work with you and be there for you in a powerful new way.
Let's talk about how emotions organize our environment. And I am fascinated now by gamma and delta, and in particular, gamma bursts. Why am I geeking out on this so much?
Well, gamma bursts were the gamma is the highest brainwave frequency. It was also the most recently discovered brainwave frequency. The first one was alpha, which was discovered in the 1920s by the guy who invented the EEG. Gamma was developed was discovered much later, and the big series of experiments that put gamma on the map was when Richard Davidson at the University of Madison, Wisconsin, tested Buddhist monks, and they've been meditating for an average of 31 years. Okay, these are serious long meditators, up to 4 hours a day of compassion meditation. And he found that they were all the happiness areas of their brains were lit up, and then lots of these gamma frequencies in their brains. And so gamma is the signature frequency of insight, inspiration, and happiness. People who are happy, people who are having insights, people who are really calm, they tend to have a lot of gamma. If you hook someone up to an EEG and they're having a panic attack, they have literally zero gamma going on in their brains. And so gamma is this very, very important wave of insight. I call it the genius wave or the Einstein wave. And in the book, I have a little picture of Einstein, which I associate with gamma. And so gamma is this really amazing wave. What we do, so again, Richard Davidson, Tibetan monks, happy 31 years of meditating 4 hours a day, and they're making gamma. What I'm doing in workshops,
I love it.
I'm taking people who fail at meditation, who say, I can't meditate, I've tried to meditate, I've been to workshops, read books, totally failed. I'm having to do eco meditation and tapping. Mm-hmm. We're setting them down, we're hooking them up to an EEG, and in 4 minutes, they're making gamma. And when I first proposed, I teach at Esalen every year, Esalen Institute, and I first emailed them about, because I teach EFT, but I want to teach meditation as well and train people in this meditation method that in 4 minutes they're making all this gamma. I said, it's really simple to do this. You just do these 7 easy steps. It's called eco meditation, and people are in this inspired state. They're happy. They're in gamma. And they rejected my application. They emailed me back and said, Dr. Church, we are the country's premier meditation site. We have all the top meditation teachers who teach here, and we can assure you it is not that easy to meditate in that way. They turned me down.
Oh, excellent.
Now, eventually, they actually did let me go there and teach eco meditation. We did a study of people who are doing that. It's just been published in a peer-reviewed journal, and it shows they had wonderful brainwave changes when they did this, and it was that easy. It's not that hard.
Maybe you can tell us briefly about heart coherence at this point, and we're talking about how energy creates things.
Yeah, well, the fascinating thing about heart coherence is HeartMath has been training people to do heart coherence for a long time. But one of the things we found is that when we would take meditators and then they'd get into meditation, then we'd say, okay, do your regular meditation routine, we found they dropped out of heart coherence. So with
Wow.
eco meditation, we actually train them to induce heart coherence while they're in meditation. It's really, really interesting. And we, in the book, I have a lot about coherence, mental coherence, physical coherence, because we find that in the book, research shows that people who are intenders, who intend things to happen, like we all want to, be happy, wealthy, wise, disease-free, make $1 million, have the love of our lives, live in wherever it is we want to live. We all have these intentions. And for most people, many of those things don't happen. They affirm, they visualize, and a lot of it doesn't happen. But we found that when you're intending that way, you're usually ineffective. But if you're a meditator, if you are in mental coherence, what happens is you come into physiological coherence as well. And when people who are in coherence intend, their stuff happens often very, very quickly. They're what we call master manifestors, but they're manifesting in that state of coherence. They get into coherence first, and they're one with this emergent reality. So now they're one with the birds and the trees and the dolphins and all the stuff. And then the kinds of intentions you have when you are one with the universe, when you are one with non-local mind, they're not those petty little intentions and desires you have when you're stuck in your old conditioning in local mind. So now you're having elevated emotions and you're having a remarkably powerful experience of being one with non-local mind. And the kinds of intentions you have in that state are one with those emergent properties of the whole universe. And so, of course, they happen easily because you're in flow. You're in flow with the whole of creation, and things you intend then are very different, and then they manifest very easily because you are in that flow. So that's what we find with people who are in that space. They are in coherence, and coherence is essential for effective manifestation.
How would you define coherence for people who are hearing it for the first time?
Very simple. I have lights in the room, light bulbs in the room around me. Some of those 60-watt light bulbs. Turn on that light bulb, and that 60 watts of light flooding out from that light bulb is great. It illuminates the whole room about 10 feet away. So it's incoherent light. It's scattered. Its rays are going out from the bulb in all those directions, and it'll illuminate the whole room, and it'll extend 10 feet away from me. If I take 60 watts and make those light rays all coherent, flowing in the same direction, it's called a laser. That 60-watt laser will cut through a 1/4-inch steel plate. That's the difference between incoherent light and coherent light. And that's the difference between incoherent thought, oh, I'd like to have this, but I'm distracted by all these 40,000 other things, versus a highly coherent person. They're in heart coherence, they're meditating, they've got their whole body in coherence. When they have that thought, gee, I'd love to see that happen. It can happen just like that.
Woohoo! So speaking about energy coherence and people in energy coherence, what is an energy contagion and why are you such a good one?
I love this research. Now, this was not on my radar before I wrote the book, but we've all seen these times of mass hysteria. And there are examples throughout history. In the 1930s, when Hitler came to power, he had these Nuremberg rallies where they had up to 1 million people in these huge stadiums in Nuremberg, and they were all just chanting Heil Hitler, working themselves up into this frenzy to prepare for World War II. The Salem witch trials are another example. Another more recent example is when we went to war in Iraq in 2002. There was this mass emotional contagion where Congress voted to go to war over the just really riding over the advice of all the foreign policy analysts who said, hey, there's nothing there, don't do this. But there's some kind of mass movement towards war. So there are these mass movements in consciousness. Some of them are very powerful and positive. The Summer of Love. In 1982, I was in Central Park, the largest rally in American history up to that point. And we were rallying for an end to nuclear war and the nuclear standoff between the Soviet Union and the U.S. And so this huge movement, there were these huge movements in consciousness, the Summer of Love, all of these times when either for really violent aims like the Nazi Party or for peace. In other instances, people had these huge experiences of mass emotional contagion. And so the researchers say that emotions are as contagious as the flu or as any kind of infectious disease. Emotions are contagious. You can catch them from the people around you. And in long-running studies, they found that if the people around you are negative, they will infect you with those negative emotions, and you will then infect other people with them. In one mass study, they manipulated the Facebook feed of people, and they were able to produce emotional contagion in 780,000 people on Facebook 3 years ago by just tweaking their feeds to be a little bit emotionally darker or a little bit emotionally lighter. So I want to make us agents of emotional infection for positive emotions. I want you to wake up in the morning and be so full of love. I want you to be so addicted to the serotonin and dopamine and other wonderful neurochemicals in your brain. I talk a lot in the book about anandamide, also called the bliss molecule, and how it floods our neurotransmitters when we're meditating and doing this kind of meditation. And so you entrain yourself to that in the morning. You then become an agent of emotional contagion all around you the whole day. And the research shows you don't just affect the people around you one layer out, but that they affect people around them another layer out. And so we're infecting other people with emotional contagion. So my dream is that this book, now again, we've had people we had one review on Amazon. We've got all these 5-star reviews on Amazon within the first few days. The first day, like the book only shipped the day before. The next day, one woman posted saying, I got the book yesterday. I've done nothing but read the book ever since. And it's like just blowing my mind. Another woman said, I've never really taken meditation seriously before. Now I'm committing to a daily meditation practice. So we want this emotional contagion that this book, Mind to Matter, is producing right now to literally infect millions and millions and millions of people and show them that these ways of thinking about their lives they've had, that I am this local mind, I have these limitations, I can't create, I can't manifest, my dreams don't come true, that when you discard those old stories about your life, when you align with non-local mind, that you become a remarkable creator of emotional reality around you and physical reality inside your body and out. And literally, we can produce emotional contagion and a movement of positivity and joy and enlightenment that can shape and shift the entire world. It's within our grasp now as a species to make these massive changes. In the afterword of the book, I say, the future of the planet and the human race and our species will look nothing like the past. We're in the middle of this tectonic shift in human affairs and all over the globe as we spread the emotional contagion of positivity and joy and enlightenment, not just in our own little communities, but throughout our whole society. And so I believe we're in the middle of this huge shift in consciousness, and I want to do all I can to help catalyze as much of that as I possibly can through my interviews like this, through writing, through appearances, through workshops. I mean, I want people to get this message and act on it and see the shifts it produces, not only in their own lives, but in the whole community and the world that we live in.
What's the number one mistake that people make when it comes to manifestation? They don't know how to visualize. Truth be told, this is something I, in particular, really had to work on because I have a hard time seeing things in my mind's eye. I need visual cues. I need video. I need images. I need to see things in front of me. But with practice, I have learned how to do it, and I've certainly become a manifestation master. And I'm going to tell you what we're manifesting in just a few minutes. I'm going to tell you what we're manifesting, and I literally just shut off my phone because I am expecting a miracle phone call at any minute, but I didn't want it to disturb our recording. But we can actually talk about it in terms of recording. Consciousness. What is consciousness? Consciousness is the silly putty of the universe, the stuff out of which we can make anything with our mind's eye. Consciousness is a blank slate on which we create. What we get to do is imprint our desire on the blank slate, on the screen of the universe. In other words, you are a projector. You are a projector of your greatest desires, which means manifestation at the end of the day is a giant loop. You've probably never heard it talked about that way. Why does it mean that it's a giant loop? Well, your desire, what comes into your heart, didn't come from you. What do you mean? Well, whether you want a race car, chocolate ice cream, peace, or whatever it may be, it came into your heart from the ethos, from the universe. You, your heart, your head are the are the greatest receiver in the universe. So you came into this by feeling a pull on your heart, which says, I have a passion for this. I have a desire for that. I really crave or like this other thing. It didn't come from you. Babies come into this world preloaded. Some of them like to run. Some of them want to play. Some of them want to go quiet and read. Some of them like chocolate. Some of them like vanilla. It didn't come from you as the parent. And it didn't come from them. It came from source, spirit, universe, consciousness. Desire starts here. It comes in here. Now it becomes our free will, our choice of what we wish to do with it. So when it comes to manifestation, a big part of it is you get to choose that. So desire comes in and then you choose, hey, I want to take action on this desire. And how do I take action? You bring it in, you send it home. You bring it in, you send it home. You then turn the projector up to the heavens and you beam this image of exactly what you want above your head or inside of you. And then it is mirrored down into the pond of your life. The expressions go, as above, so below. You put the projection up here, it comes down, you see it, and you realize it. You realize your desires as above, so below, or as within. You project it on the inside as without. And so what I've been doing is going into my space capsule. What's a space capsule? A space capsule is your sacred space where you can practice your visualizations and manifest whatever you desire. You could also call it a flight simulator. To me, it's sexier to call it a space capsule because when you're in your space capsule, you see things through your window. You can project things through your window. You can, in a sense, make them real through your window because your space capsule could be anywhere. It could be here on Earth. It could be on Mars. It could be in the space in between. It could be 20,000 leagues under the sea. It is your space, sacred space from which to create. And so we've been gaining clarity and more clarity and more clarity still. And that's a key to manifestation. If you're like, Michael, get to the tools. Key number one is you need clarity. As much clarity as you can bring. So I've been watching videos. I've been reading blogs. I've been doing my research. Not to choose which vehicle I desire, but so that the vehicle I desire chooses me. You're never choosing what you wish to manifest. You're getting in the resonant frequency where what you wish to manifest manifests you into it. As above, so below means that you are the reflection of what's really going on, which gets to alchemy, which gets to vibration, which gets to attunement, which we will get to. Last night, we've done our homework, we've taught our class, and we're like, that's it. All the salespeople are saying, you've got to act now, you've got to act now. We're running out, we're out of this, we're out of that. If you place an order now, you're going to be lucky to get it by July, if not the end of the summer. Can you feel that energy in there? You never want to manifest from the energy of panic. You want to be like Henry the tortoise and go slow. There is never a need to rush with your manifestation. Ever. Because any manifestation will be done twice as good when done at half the speed. Why? because manifestation is all about energy. It's about getting in the vibrational frequency, getting in alignment, getting in attunement with what you desire or what desires you. And if you're trying to get into vibrational alignment and you've got this key and the key is shaky and you're trying to open the door that you want to your future, it ain't happening. Instead, we want to go quiet. We want to slow down. We want to get maybe into more of a state of play, like I continuously do. Hi there. I'm Southern Comfort. Like I continuously do with Southern Comfort, with Henry, with whomever. Get in a state of play, in a state of joy, or at least in a state of slowing down. And now you can create. So last night, I went into my space capsule and I put myself in my RV. I saw myself in our RV. I played in the RV. I experienced living life in the RV. And this isn't any RV. This is 44 feet of goodness. It's got a master bedroom. It's got a king-size bed. It's got twin decks, patio decks. It's got a 13-foot studio in it. It has a kitchen, a living room, a double sink, bath and a half. On and on it goes. I put myself in this state and I lived it. And then I went to bed and Jessica, my wife, also known as Pookie, or she's been upgraded to the Pook Star, she challenged me. She said, you know, we're both amazing manifestors. I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of tired. And she goes, and you know of Lynn McTaggart's Power of 8 because you teach it. Yeah, that's right. The more people you get together, focusing on the same intention, the more you bring it about. And she's like, well, play with me. She said, let's go into the space capsule together. And so that's just what we did. We basically led ourselves through a guided manifestation, a guided meditation of being the RV, of seeing ourselves in the RV, of high-fiving ourselves in the RV, literally all the way up through going to sleep. We had our second night's sleep, because we've done this before, our second night's sleep last night in our new king-size bed, in our new bedroom, in our new rolling home and studio. Then this morning, I got up. I went into my automatic writing. What's automatic writing? I'll tell you a little bit more before the end. This is our book on automatic writing. It's a book for turning your journaling into channeling, that's how I've learned how to channel the masters. I went into my automatic writing this morning, which means I went quiet. Did a brief meditation. I'll put that in quotes. It's simpler than a meditation. Went through a few prayers, which put myself in this sacred state. And then I got writing for the next half hour, as if I was in this RV. First, I saw it being pulled up the driveway. I saw it turned around, backed in. I saw myself, the stairs lowering, saw myself walking up, pulling on the door handle, opening the door, going inside, going, we did it, we did it, we did it. High-fiving with Jessica, celebrating, going into the bedroom, bouncing up and down on the bed, running my hands along the wood trim, running my hands on the countertop, pressing the button, extending the slide outs. And on it went, even turning on the generator. And hearing that low hum of the generator as it comes to life. Of course, it's solar, so I rarely will need to run the generator. But I spent 30 minutes losing myself in my visualization. That's when you create. Because when you have lost yourself, you have lost yourself to the future already arisen. To your future already arisen. When you lose yourself in your visualization, you get into a state of knowingness, a state of imprinting on consciousness. Basically, you've projected on consciousness, and it is now going to project the mirror image right back down to you. I can go to that sense of fear, of worry, of concern, of, is this going to work out? Which doesn't manifest a darn thing at best, or manifest the exact thing that I'm worried about at worst. Or I can go to the state of creation, the state of excitement, the state of joy, the state of, it's here, the state of gratitude, the state of, woohoo, which you can check out our other shows, came to me out of my first near-death experience. I never had my woohoo beforehand. And that is this state of joy from the universe, from blank slate consciousness. So what does this all mean? It means that either after this, I may have an email, I may have a phone call, I may have a text message, and the RV that we're desiring will be ours today, which is even earlier than the timestamp I put in my manifestation work. Or it won't. Woohoo! And something better will. That's part of the key to this game, is not holding on too tightly where you can't get your key in the lock. So, how do we bring our attention back? How do we gain clarity on this? You may hear now Sir Meowsers in the background, who is truly the ultimate manifestation kitty cat, because he has learned with his claws that if he imprints his claws on consciousness, also known as ripping stuff up, he can have anything he desires. Be kind of cool when we have a recording studio with closing doors. It will be interesting at that time. So what we want to do, and we're rarely, I can't actually think of a single teacher, I'm sure there are many, but I have not heard a single teacher say this. No, Neville Goddard in his own way had it going on. Neville really had it going on. We get to practice visualization. We get to practice for 5 or 10 minutes a day, practice bringing something into our lives, bringing a situation into our lives, bringing a place into our lives, bringing a person into our lives, time stamping something, and bringing that temporal state into our lives. Why is it so important to practice? Because our mind likes to throw stuff out. You can't have that. You can't do that. That's not possible. You know you're going to get that negative phone call. You know you're going to get a rejection. Be realistic. That's what our mind has been trained and entrained to do. Since our earliest days, neurons that fire together, wire together, means we were taught to be realistic. We were taught be realistic. Neurons reach toward each other, be realistic. They reach toward each other, be realistic. They start to attach, be realistic. The connection between our brain cells grows strong, be realistic. We create a myelinated superhighway of objectivity. What's a myelinated superhighway? It means thoughts going faster than the speed of light. Well, they can't go faster than the speed of light. Look up precognition and Dr. Dean Radin, or precognition and all of the studies that have been done out there. We can actually go faster than the speed of speed of time. Time's not actually real. There isn't actually any speed of time. So therefore, faster than the speed of light with our thoughts with myelinated superhighway. We are literally letting go of the hot potato before it's even hit our hand. It's kind of cool, all of the studies. Science-based Six Sigma studies and beyond. Really, really cool. Get to a state of hypervisualization. What is hypervisualization? Hypervisualization is where something is more real than real. In all the manifestation work that I have been doing, I have been knuckle dragging. What do you mean by that? You're skateboarding? No, I am taking my hands and dragging them along the countertop in the kitchen, dragging it across the bed, dragging it across the sofa, dragging it across the kitchen table, feeling my fingers on the latch that opens the door. I have been touching and putting my oily, hopefully not so oily, fingerprints on everything in my new RV. I've been looking at the welds or how the I guess it's the faucet screws into the countertop, at my double sink, running my hands on the stainless steel. I am tactily feeling everything to where it is more real than real. And then I am following the breadcrumbs. This gets back full circle to the beginning, where if you hold tight, first off, you're not in a frequency of allowing anything. And you may understand that this is a Hansel and Gretel game of breadcrumbs. Do not fight it. Do not force it. Instead, get yourself into the highest vibrational state you can and play with your muscles. Your future's already here. It's already waiting for you. The meaning you give an event is actually the belief that attracted the event.
I'm telling you, that is the most huge insight that anybody can grasp, because the movie The Secret really talked about the law of attraction and introduced it to people. But a lot of people became skeptical and disappointed when it didn't work for them. Mm-hmm. And I had to explain to people that the way the law of attraction works is that it works on your unconscious beliefs. Not what you're consciously telling yourself, it's what you're unconsciously telling yourself. So if you want to have any real change, you have to go into the unconscious. So how do you do that? Well, the biggest thing you can do is to become aware of your unconscious programming. And one way to do this is with the statement you just gave, is to look at any situation that's going on in your life, especially one you don't particularly like. You know, it's a health problem, a relationship problem, a financial problem, whatever it happens to be. And listen to yourself explain why you have the problem. Because when you talk to somebody else, you're going to say, it's always like this for me. Mm-hmm. Or the economy really sucks. Or it's because of the political environment. You'll come up with some sort of reason, rationale, belief. That belief is what triggered and created the very manifestation of the thing you're complaining about. So this is you jumped into the deep end with this. I mean, this is the graduate level course in understanding about creating your whole reality. You got to understand you're doing it unconsciously, but how do you find out what's going on in the unconscious? Mm-hmm. Listen to what you're telling yourself. The belief, the reason that you give for the event that's taking place is actually the belief that attracted it to you. Pause and reflect on that. That's huge, because we're hearing a lot about stating intentions, and that's what you state with your conscious mind. Consciously, I'm going to go work out. I intend to make more sales. I intend to increase my business. Those are all great. Those are all intentions. But if you have what I call counter intentions in your mind that veto your stated intentions, you won't get your stated intentions, because the unconscious is more powerful. So if you say, I want to have more money, but unconsciously you think money's bad, money corrupts, money is evil, you're not going to attract more money. Or you'll attract just enough for just a little bit, and then you will abort. You will self-sabotage yourself, and you won't have the money you've been saying you want. So yeah, that's what I'm calling counter-intentions. So the way to really look at this is to go to lunch with a friend of yours and tell them what's going on in your life. And listen to yourself explain your behavior, your rationale, your explanations for the things not working out. Because what you explain to that other person is actually your own belief system. It's revealing what you are thinking on an unconscious level. Most of us go to our lunch and we complain about our lives, but we don't have any awareness, any sort of aha or awakening that we are actually revealing our own programming. We just think we're getting it off our chest, and on one way we are, and it feels good, and we have our drink or our food or whatever it happens to be. But we want to be far more conscious. We want to be far more aware, and we want to awaken to what our programming is. So listening to our dialogue as we talk to somebody else, revealing our problems, that's one way to do it.
What is it you call inspired intention?
Yeah, I've been saying intentions are for wimps. So, as much as I like intentions, and as much as I think intentions are better than being a victim and just rolling with what occurs in life, What's better than intentions are actually to have inspiration. Inspiration is coming from, again, I keep calling it the great something. I have a new album coming out. It's titled The Great Somethings. So the great something is going to give me, much like when I say this or something better with an intention, the great something can inspire me with something that I hadn't even thought about before, something bigger than what my mind had wanted me to do. So an intention is great because it moves you in the positive direction of where you want to go. It aligns your body and mind to go in a particular direction. But an inspired intention is when the intention actually comes from a higher power. It comes from the divine, the great something. And it gives you something that'll probably scare you a little bit, but excite you a lot. And that scared, excited balance, that little seesaw, that's a great place to be. Oh, is that a great? That's where the gusto of life is. That's where the enthusiasm and the dynamism and all of that come. And the enthusiasm of life is when you follow the inspiration. An inspired intention is better than an ego intention.
What do I do about my spouse? I really believe this, and I'm working to intend, but I keep hitting this where they're saying, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, I like that you always go for the deep end of understanding. And so what I want to do is honor that and give you my deep end explanation of that.
Thank you.
I find that, trying to find the right words to say this, our relationships are essentially mirrors. And so what these people are saying that sounds like criticism, they're voicing what you believe inside yourself. And I'm pausing for that to sink in. So if somebody is in your coaching program or they're reading my books and they're doing all these wonderful things for themselves, but their spouse is every now and then clipping at their heels and snipping at them and saying something critical, they need to look at that from the perspective of their spouse is speaking their internal belief system. The spouse is actually voicing what they secretly still believe inside themselves. And I've seen this all the time because as soon as somebody owns that and starts to question the idea that, wow, they say that this is, I can't even make up an example of what somebody is criticizing them for because it's out of my head anymore. It's not there. I can't even make it up. But if somebody is saying something critical about what a person is doing, they got to pause and ask themselves, is it true? Do I believe that on some level? And then question the belief. Because when you question the belief, now you can dismantle it. Now you can unwire it. You can deprogram yourself. And what I have found is that when you do that internal work, the spouse either quits saying anything altogether or actually joins forces with you and starts to say, what are you doing? I noticed that you're making these changes. What are you reading? What are you watching? What are you doing? But it's not about changing them. I think that's really the punchline. It's not about changing anybody in the outer. I actually come from the frame of mind that there isn't anybody on the outer. It's all a freaking illusion. It's all projections out of our own mind. We are projecting everything out there. It looks real. You look real. You know, I probably look real to you. But we're internally experiencing everything. It's all taking place inside. So if the spouse says something critical, it's not the spouse. It is a reflection of your belief system being spoken by that mirror image. So instead of saying, shut up, you want to say, thank you. And then look within to find out, do I believe that? And what can I do to change it?
Let's go from there. Let's talk a little bit maybe about either the reticular activation system or specifically the step of clearing.
Yeah, well, both are important. In many ways, I think clearing is the most important thing for us to have, do, or be what we want. And in many ways, we've been talking about that because when I say clearing, I'm talking about clearing the counter intentions. I'm talking about clearing the unconscious beliefs. I'm talking about clearing anything that's within us to prevent us from having, doing, or being what we want. I really think that there are no limits in life. I don't know that even the sky is the limit. I think that's a belief. It's a cliche. It's a nice thing to say, but it's not true. And so if we experience any sort of blocks or limitations, they are clues to our beliefs. And what we want to do is clear those beliefs. So clearing is a big step. I've written different books about it and have big sections in the new book that's out right now. But that's a really important step, clearing. We use Ho'oponopono for clearing. We use belief work for clearing. We use coaching for clearing. It is the most important step, and it is the one almost nobody knows about because they just focus on, here's what I want, bring it to me. You know, they just watch The Secret and think all I have to do is sit down and visualize it and the doorbell will ring and somebody will give it to me, whatever it happens to be. So Nevilleizing, I love Nevilleizing. Nevilleizing is a coined word, and it's referring to Neville Goddard. Mm-hmm. Most people think of him as Neville, Neville, I think. But Neville talked about not just visualizing what you're wanting, but to actually embody it, to go to the end result where you already have what you want to have, do, or be. There's nothing wrong with imagery. There's nothing wrong with visualization. These are all powerful tools and they're proven to work. But Neville went a step further. Neville said instead of visualizing the car, I'm a car guy, so I'm going to use that as an example, visualizing the car that you want being in your house in 2 months or in 2 weeks or tomorrow, visualize that you drove it this morning. And you got your keys right here in the drawer. You can pull them up. And you're telling people about it. And how great would that feel to know that you got the car last week or yesterday and you went for a drive this morning and you got it washed and it is beautiful. And you are so happy to have this car. It's an emotional vehicle for you. It is representing success and manifestation. So Neville said, feel it as if it's already real. In fact, I have some autographed books by him, and he would sign them. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, which is going exactly where we want to go. So it's a way of clearing because you bypass all of the things that were blocking you. Instead of sitting there saying, well, how am I going to get a car? Or I don't even know what kind of car. Or maybe you do, but you're visualizing it off in the distance. Neville would say, no, come from the being of it. Come from the having of it. Not from the lack, not from the want, not from the desire, but it already being fulfilled. It's beautiful. I love it. Nevilleized.
Woohoo!
It's one of my favorite things.
So when we talk about coming from that being place, maybe we should dive into Einstein's secret here and why we can't solve the problem from the same level of thinking that created it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I was going to say guilty, but I haven't been guilty. I've been unconscious and done this myself, where you try to solve problems in your life, not realizing that the way you're trying to solve them is with the very same consciousness and mindset that created the problem to begin with. So mentally, we have to transcend where we're at. Mentally, we have to become more awake. Mm-hmm. Now, I've talked about 4 stages of awakening, and it's in the new book. Most of us were born into victimhood. If we're lucky, at some point we see The Secret or we watch your show. Somebody comes across your show for the very first time, and this can trigger an awakening. Suddenly, they're now leaving victimhood, and they're in empowerment. And empowerment is juicy. Empowerment is a zinger, because now you feel like you're captain of the universe, and you can have, do, or be anything at all. But there's still 2 more stages of awakening. The third one is surrender. And surrender doesn't mean giving up. Surrender means that there's a higher power that you're part of, that you're not God. You are a God, but you are part of the great something. And this is where you surrender to inspiration. You surrender to the things that are offered to you through intuition and opportunities. You surrender. You still have intentions. You still have awakened. You still are empowered. But now you have even more power because you've become an ally with the great something, which was there all along. Only now you know it. Then there's the 4th stage, which is actually enlightenment or awakening. That comes by grace. You can't make that happen because then you're coming from your ego trying to become a better ego. And what you have to do is actually meditate, prepare, do all the right things, and grace will bring enlightenment or awakening if it chooses to. So we want to be aware of all of these different steps as we go through life.
How did you then find your way from taking such a spiritual path that maybe there isn't, you may have given the answer here, which is every path is a good path. You ended up in accounting.
Well, for me, the answers were always about, if I can figure out what the hell's going on,
Mm-hmm.
then I can get it on and live an awesome life. I always felt like that was out there. I never bought into be selfless or be of service in a selfless way. Today, I'm all about be of service, but in a selfish way, in a way that rocks your world, in a way that you've taken care of the bases at home. And then you have no regrets. You're not looking over your shoulder. You can really give to the world. So I'm all about service. But back then, coming from my Catholic background, it was selfless service. Put the needs of others before your own. And I knew that was a non-starter. Just intuitively, I would never go there. Couldn't possibly be true. Couldn't possibly be God's will. And so suddenly I found these truths that were all empowering, leaving no one behind. And for me, it was about, this is the way to joy. This is the way to live your dreams. This is the way, and I don't mind saying it, although I'm sure it'll sound rough at first. This is the way to a life of richness, of abundance, financial abundance, because that's a small piece of the pie, a small piece of what I was after. But hell, why not? Why wouldn't God want us to be wealthy? Don't you have to have some money if you really want to taste all the fruits of life and go to all the countries and experience all the cultures and on and on and on? I mean, you don't have to have money to be happy, but if you are grounded and you've got your priorities in order and you're loving and caring and following your own heart, adding a lot of money to that equation for a car you love and a house that's comfortable and luxurious, maybe with a pool, I am sure God would be like, good on you. That's why you're there. Live the life of your dreams. Your dreams are a glimmer as to what awaits you if you have the confidence and courage and wherewithal, the understanding to move in their direction as if they were meant to be. That's what our dreams are. They're not random. I also had the wherewithal, as would anybody thinking, that like, okay, so we're powerful and all things are possible and we can create our own happiness. That didn't mean, okay, so I'm going to drop out of school and go home with vision boards and scrapbooks and wait for Oprah to call. It's like, no, of course you can't do that. And people who said The Secret, the DVD and the book, lacked talk about taking action. I mean, there's no implication in that work, if you will, that you don't have to do anything. Of course, you're going to continue living your life, which means going out into the world, keep your job and use it as a platform for joyful, creative living, would be the implied message. And so I still had to figure out how I would interface with this beautiful, loving world around me. And I like math. I like numbers. My uncle was an entrepreneur. I thought, that's good. That's going to be perfect for me. I would love to be an entrepreneur, which is vague, and I didn't know what I'd be doing as an entrepreneur. But the guidance I had received from several adults was unanimous. Get a degree in accounting. Just don't get stuck in accounting. Not that there's anything wrong with that profession, and I have fond memories of my 6 years with Price Waterhouse. But that's how I got into accounting. You know, I wasn't going to drop out of college because I was powerful. I was going to still, and I urge my audiences and readers to this day, get a little logical with your spiritual take on life. Yes, it's beautiful. Yes, there's a law of attraction. Yes, there's a power to positive thinking. But you need to be engaged. You need to be out there. You need to be pressing the flesh, discovering what you like and love, discovering what you're good at. And then the universe, if you will, my word for life's magic, which is simply an extension of us, there's no divisions, then you're reachable. Then you can be in the right place at the right time, you know, sitting next to the person who will rock your world, or give you a tip, or introduce you to somebody who will rock your world, or whatever. So I got into public accounting. That led to becoming a certified public accountant. I worked for Price Waterhouse for 6 years. I got promoted to the manager level, traveled around the world in their international tax department.
How did you get selectively transferred?
You know, I was about to get fired from Price Waterhouse in the audit department. I was just the worst auditor in the world. You might be good at math, but audit is another language. It's not math. It's approaches to find fraud or to make sure there's an honest and accurate reporting of financial statements. And so it's a language. It's not numbers. Well, that was a rude awakening for me. And so I was about to get fired. Well, I felt like I was about to get fired just within weeks of being hired. I was terrible within months of being hired. And that's when I started visualizing and doing the stuff that the books had reinforced in college. Create a picture in your mind of your desired end result. And I didn't know how to picture myself as a good auditor because, I would have been a good auditor if I knew what they did. Mm-hmm. So instead, I did something fortuitously, which I teach to this day. Skip the hows. Don't worry about how. Just imagine the desired end result. And the desired end result for me then was happy at work, in love with the firm, and the firm in love with me, and surrounded by friends, can't wait to get there. And so I visualized that I was happy at work. Within 3 weeks, the phone rang. It was the head of human resources. I was yanked into the tax department. I thought, that's it. I'm never going to survive tax. Turned out the tax department loved me. I loved being in the tax department. My loan became a permanent transfer. My career blasted off. And then, given the success I had had with creative visualization, saving my butt, I thought, man, can you imagine if you apply this to dreams, not survival, but thrival? And so I put together a vision board, AKA a scrapbook, because there was no secret back then. Nobody told me how to do a vision board. But I knew it would serve me to have photographs that were emblematic of the life of my wildest dreams. So I just pasted them into pages of copy machine paper, from Price Waterhouse, I'm sure. And, cut, paste, glue, and turn the page, and there's my dream car. Turn the page, and there's pictures of international destinations that I'm going to travel to one day. Turn the page, and there's a dream home. Turn the page, and there's beautiful girls. Things that were on my mind then and now. Although now I've got the dream relationship. Well, it was like almost a year later, so not sudden, but a year later, all of a sudden I get a call, and I'm able to be transferred overseas on a foreign assignment, not to the city of my choice, but to Saudi Arabia, which was like, what? Saudi Arabia? But looking back, even shortly thereafter, I could see there was probably no other quicker way in my life at the time to propel me into the life of my wildest dreams than this 18-month tour of duty to Saudi Arabia. Because while I was there, not only did I receive a very generous hardship bonus, but I received like 6 weeks paid time off out of 18. Do the math. 6 out of 18 months, 6 weeks. No, wait a minute. With banked overtime, it was like, I think, 2 months approximately of time off, paid time off to go wherever I wanted from Saudi Arabia as my base. Africa's nearby, the Mediterranean was nearby, Europe's nearby, Asia's nearby. It's halfway around the world practically from where I was based in the United States. So my home leaves, I would go around through Asia, visit home, and come back across the Atlantic. I would go all the way around the world on my home leaves. And I wouldn't even go home. I would just go through Africa or Asia or the South Seas. And earn a lot of money.
Since we're talking about thoughts becoming things, how did you not, or did you, focus on the turbulence and instead focus on, I don't know where I want to go, but it's someplace better than the turbulence?
That is a dilemma that when we are, let me phrase it this way. Somebody will ask that same question to me, Mike, how do I focus on financial abundance? When every single day through the mail and phone calls, I'm being reminded of how in debt I am. Mike, how do I focus on health and healing when every single day through sharp pain in my knees or in my back, I'm reminded of my sickness? And that made me realize, because I've been through these, including the turbulence you just asked about, there's nobody who wants anything, particularly not a great desire, that isn't simultaneously faced with staring exactly the opposite in the face every single day. There's no such thing. The reason you want it is because you don't got it. And if you want it really bad, it's because you got it really bad in an opposite way. And so everyone who wants to be a deliberate creator, a conscious manifester, is faced with this dilemma. So for your viewers right now, we're birds of a feather. We're all in this together. And any desire presupposes lack. And how do you focus on the end result that you want when you're dealing with the lack, or the illness, or the loneliness, or the confusion? And this is a lesson that, how do you focus on surviving at work when everyone hates you and you're getting bad evaluations? This was my first attempt, my first dilemma dealing with the scenario that you have painted. And I remember being so scared that I was going to get fired that it was the first time in my life I decided I was going to do some true, everyday, ritualized creative visualization. Sit down for 5 or 10 minutes in a dark and quiet room and imagine everything going fantastic. And so, because we hear about this stuff and we watch The Secret and we're like, yeah, I know, I knew that. Yeah, I'm positive, that's good. But when your life's on fire, you're like, I might know it, but my life's going down, so I've got to do something about it. And so that's the first time that I physically had a ritual of creative visualization. And up until that point, I thought, I'm already positive, but then my ship was sinking. So even during my creative visualization, when I thought I was going to get fired, and I'm imagining I'm happy at work, I'm surrounded by friends, the partners are acknowledging me, even during my sacred 5 or 10 minutes a day, I'd worry about getting fired. I would wonder, is the pink slip really pink? Is that why they call it the pink slip? The traditional old school, if you're getting fired, they give you a pink slip. And I would think, oh, I'm so doomed. I am so doomed. Not only am I doing bad at work, but I cannot stop worrying and thinking negatively about what might likely happen to me. And all I could do was just do my best. And I didn't think, okay, well, I'm worrying during my visualizing, so I'm going to quit visualizing. It's like, no, I'm going to still try. And I prevailed. And that showed me something, Michael, that I teach to this day in a number of different ways, a number of different analogies and metaphors. It's as if our positive thoughts are at least 10,000 times, and that's, I'm sure, a grotesque understatement, at least 10,000 times more powerful than our negative, fearful thoughts. So you think one little positive thought, you now have license to think 10,000 negative, fearful thoughts, and they'll equal out. So it's really hard to manifest bad stuff if you're at least sitting down and doing your best to visualize 5 or 10 minutes a day. It will always be enough, coupled with demonstrations, acts of faith, coupled with understanding the nature of reality and no longer giving your power away to fate, karma, destiny, spiritual contracts, or an angry God. All these things are important. That's why I have this big body of work. I mean, it's all simple. Thoughts become things, period, end of story. But, what about beliefs? What about emotion? What about intuition? What about affirmations? So we teachers weave a tapestry talking about all these nuances. But thoughts become things. And for a caveat, if there was a caveat, your positive ones become things better, faster, and easier than your negative ones. Why? Well, just through deduction. We're the eyes and the ears of God Almighty come alive in the dream of life. We're here by choice. We came here to rock and roll. We have dreams so that they can come true. We're pushed on to greatness daily. And when you start getting your nature as this intergalactic love, joy being here temporarily because you chose it for the love of it, because you wanted to see what would happen, what mountains you would scale, what dreams you'd make come true. I mean, and everybody watching, people say, oh, life's not that great. It's like, who wants to give theirs up? Almost nobody, and of course, suicide is a severe problem. Drug addiction is a severe problem. But by and large, 99% of all living creatures, from mice to roaches to human beings, don't want to let go of theirs. It's because it's awesome. And we just often don't admit how awesome our lives are, even when they've been turbulent. So anyway, it's thoughts becoming things, and that's why our positive thoughts are more powerful, as if more powerful than our negative thoughts. I mean, we can split hairs, and we don't have the time to take all the tangents that might be rummaging through people's heads right now, but that's the gist of it. And time and again, Michael, through the crises of my life, I have seen that just the least effort, which was the best I could do at the time, was always enough to turn the tide and right my listing ship. That's how powerful we are. And that's what I started doing. That's how I learned about what we're up against. This does not mean you will live a problem-free life, but you won't call them problems anymore. You'll see that they're all invitations for being better than you even are today, that you didn't even know you could be better in those areas. And so it's like, after a while, it's like, bring it on, bring it on. I want to be even better, because the more better you are, the more confident you are, the more enlightened you are, the more love, the easier the manifestations, the more people you can help, the more fun you can have. That's what it's all about.
Woohoo! Automatic writing is perhaps the most cutting-edge tool for connecting with the other side, which is why we've written the definitive guide called the Automatic Writing Experience. To find out more, simply visit automaticwriting.com. It's my favorite way to help you to shine bright. Woohoo!